What's going on, everybody? So some of you are wondering about an update on the Medicine Bow Airport, or known as the Airmail Airport, that we've been working on diligently on essentially saving. Now, if you're new to this, or new to the whole idea of what we're trying to do here, is there's an airport in the very quaint little town of Medicine Bow, Wyoming. And this particular airport is really special because it has an incredible amount of historical significance. It's known as Medicine Bow Airport, or 80 Victor on the airport identifier. And this was a former airmail airport from the late 20s through the end of the 30s that served a multitude of roles in the early airmail system, particularly with radio, directional beacons, and guidance, as well as the infamous cement arrows that guided pilots over some of the most crazy and unforgiving terrain known to man. So this airport is right smack dab in the middle of Wyoming, and it was a main stopping area for a lot of these pilots. And its identifier or site name was SLO 32. So it was Salt Lake to Omaha route. And in my opinion, it is one of these, as I've stated in other videos, a calling to save this airport. And there has been efforts in the past to do so, and yet there's been really no further effort initiated. Well, we're making progress. And for some of you wondering where we are at in this process of restoring this airport, they just formed an airport board. They've had multitude of town meetings, and they're showing some interest as far as from the town side on saving this, but if I'm being frank, they're not overly enthusiastic. They have other, I should say, bigger fish to fry, which I totally get. You're running the town. No hurt feelings or any of that. However, they did form an airport board, which is a great step forward. Now, when it comes to actual funding, I would say that's probably our biggest issue. And a lot of people ask, well, why can't you get FAA funding? Why can't you get city funding or state funding? And yes, that is an option to some degree. The FAA funding is frankly out. We've had lawyers ask about it. It's out. It's not an actual viable request by the FAA because it's not an FAA maintained airport. They don't get grants. They don't get actual funding, nor is it even listed as a viable airport by the FAA. It is listed on the sectional as an airport. It is a dirt strip. However, it is not like Cheyenne Airport or Casper, where they're actually getting physical funding, and it is a feasible airport for all types of aircraft. So unfortunately, the FAA section and the idea of funding it via FAA, we've been kind of at a dead end with that. We might have some other avenues if you have some ideas on that, but from what we've pulled from several lawyers and federal antiquated knowledge-based individuals, it doesn't look good for that sector. State funding is still an option, though we haven't had much luck with state funding, and we're working on that. City funding is also an option. We actually have a town fund as well as that, but they are, like as I said earlier, they have bigger fish to fry. Those funds and the direction of where they are funneled to is, in their eyes, seen to be dispersed in other more important areas, which once again, I completely get. This isn't, nor has it ever been, a major point of resurrection or importance, I should say, for the town. They're trying to keep their flow of a town and how it is operated going, and directing all those funds to an airport that frankly hasn't brought them much use for their usage, I should say. Is I get their direction towards that. So it kind of leaves us up to private funding to some degree. And what I mean by that is we're going to have to take this in small steps. A lot of people think we'll just conglomerate a bunch of funds, knock it out all at once. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like that method works. I haven't had much luck with that method, and I've spoke to a lot of people. So I think we got to take this as a lemon bar and take small bites separately and fix it up slowly instead of trying to knock it out all at once. So with that being said, the direction and plan of attack for the airport update as of now, airport board is formed, small bites, small tasks attained and completed. The next task that I'm going to try to do is what I found after researching the area of the airport and what needs to be saved in a time frame that's urgent is the roof. Right now, number one is the roof. And why I say that is you see these photos that I've displayed here. It is on its last leg. The frame inside the actual house, which was the weather house, the generator, and the weatherman station, is still in great and usable shape. However, the roof is starting to show exposure to the elements. This is Wyoming. They have 4 seasons, and I'd say 3 of those seasons are pretty darn harsh on anything that is in the elements. So this roof has lasted all these years, but it is on its last leg. The frame and elements of the inside of this building are starting to be exposed, as you can see in some of these photos. So we need to get a new roof on this, and ASAP. The tower is fine. It has stood there for the last 90 years. It's not going anywhere. The foundation is actually still really good. The metal structure and all that are actually in really good shape. But as far as urgent things that need to be done, and the number one task that I'm going to do to complete on improving this airport and restoring this airport slowly is the roof. So we're going to gather up funding. I don't necessarily have a GoFundMe set up for this because we're trying to figure out how to make that work with the city. We don't know how to transfer those funds, if that did work, or if they would just take it and not use it towards actually fixing the roof. We're trying to, not saying that they would or they wouldn't, but they have means of funding and using that funding to benefit the city, which I get. But will those funds be used to benefit the actual resurrection and restoration of this airport? So we're starting with shirts and decals, as I have listed in this comment section here. And we're going to take those proceeds, a portion of those proceeds from the shirt sales and whatnot, and we're going to put those towards privately funding of the roof. And we have other private donors that we've talked about showing interest, even materials. Like we could even just use materials to get this roof. This structure, we have the measurements and the dimensions, and it's not very large. We're talking a little bit bigger than a Home Depot tough shed put together. So a few tough sheds put together when it comes to dimensions. And I have all those dimensions for anybody wondering, but we need a new roof. And we're trying to keep the originality of the structure and the building, the tower, as it once was nearly 95 years ago, but the roof needs to be done. It's just, there's no ifs, buts, or ands about it. We need to put a new one in. There's already holes, I should say, or exposure into the frame and structure, and a big snowstorm, and that's just rolling in there, and it's degrading the internal frame, and that would be less than ideal. I'm trying to keep this as original as I possibly can without redoing a lot of things to this airport. That's one of those things. So check out the link that I posted. I've got a website up now, airmailaviator.com, and I will post updates. I'm working on a newsletter that will also give anybody that wants to subscribe updates on what's going on. It's slow right now because it's winter and it's minus 20 degrees up there, so there's not a lot of exterior progress. However, there will be nice days coming up, and especially in the springtime. So I'm starting the task of getting stuff done early on for 2025, and funding, even if it's privately, getting a new roof on the structure is the number one task. So if you have any questions, ideas, or suggestions, and if you want to help support this project, I have some great shirts, some decals that you can order and have shipped directly to you. And like I said, part of those proceeds I'm putting in a fund to put a new roof on this. That's task number 1. Task number 2 is obviously painting the exterior and resurrecting a lot of the exterior structure, windows, doors, all those are functional. And then task number 3 is after a city looks at the foundation, which I believe is just fine, redoing the interior, getting all that fixed up. And then we're going to tackle the tower, get that light and those lenses. There's power within 100 feet of this foundation and building. So seeing that tower light up, which is not going to be lit up all the time. We don't need somebody landing there at 10 p.m. at night on a dirt strip that doesn't have any lights, but just the fact of trying to get power to that light and seeing that spin one more time, that's a pretty big objective and a goal of mine to see happen. But yeah, right now, roof, we need help with that. We're gonna knock that task out, get a fresh set of shingles, some sealant, and really have preventative work done to save the wooden structure of this historical airport. So check out the link, check out the website. Like I said, I got shirts, decals, and a couple other things set up. Buy those. Like I said, part of those proceeds are going to go to fixing this, and it's one more task that we can check off on saving this amazing piece of aviation history. And like I said, if you have any suggestions, comments, questions, shoot me an email, post it in the comments. I answer everybody I can. And this is just as exciting for me as it is for everybody else watching this. So there's your update for the Medicine Bow Airmail Airport restoration update video. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend.